As the woman was tidying up the house, she was horrified to notice that the wall behind her seemed to come alive, slowly closing in on her until it pressed against her, making it almost impossible to breathe. This made Alice begin to doubt, was this still the world she knew? She desperately hoped this was just an illusion, but the marks on the glass clearly told her that this was no dream. The small town where Alice lived was like a paradise, a place where the women spent their days doing simple household chores and had the rest of the time for eating, drinking, and playing, with all kinds of luxurious recreational equipment available. They wore beautiful clothes and enjoyed the sunshine and laughter by the pool. Alice was one of them, enjoying such a life, feeling as if she were in heaven. The men, on the other hand, went to the same company every day, earning high salaries, and their lives were without stress. However, there were two strange rules in this town. First, everyone must eat well, drink well, and have fun. Second, no one was allowed to leave without permission. Though everyone seemed satisfied with life here, Alice found these two rules puzzling. One day, a grand party was held in the town, and the men had a rare break from work. Everyone gathered together, chatting and laughing, enjoying a joyful time. However, it was at this moment that Margaret spoke strange words. She asked everyone why they were here, and why they couldn't remember how they arrived. These two questions made everyone pause for a moment, and it seemed that no one could answer them. After the party, Alice became deeply intrigued by Margaret's words. She started to think about the secret behind this town, because Margaret's questions were not without reason. Only Margaret had ever left the town, and when she returned, she had become mysteriously secretive. Something was clearly hidden here, so Alice decided to ask her husband for clarification, but Jack always changed the subject, refusing to give her a direct answer. The more Alice thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. She began to inquire with her friends, but they all advised her not to overthink it, saying that life here was already perfect, and there was no need to dig into irrelevant matters. Yet Alice's doubts grew stronger, and she decided to investigate the town's secrets on her own. One day, when Jack was away, she sneaked out of the town and boarded a bus. However, on the bus, she unexpectedly saw a plane malfunctioning. As the plane seemed about to crash, Alice urgently shouted for the driver to stop, but he ignored her. In a panic, Alice had no choice but to get off the bus and ran toward the crash site. As she ran, she came across a circular building, which reminded her of what Jack had once said, that this was the location of his company. Curious, Alice walked closer, only to find that this building was nothing like the luxurious company she had imagined. Alice was deeply confused, not understanding what was going on. Just then, her hand accidentally touched the glass, and an eerie scene unfolded before her eyes. The world suddenly turned blood red. Alice felt dizzy, and then she fainted.
We can let go deeper into to be.
When Alice woke up again, she found herself back at home. She felt terrified and confused by her recent experience and couldn't fathom what had happened after she passed out. She asked Jack what had occurred, but Jack only reassured her not to overthink it, suggesting that it might have just been a bad dream. Alice felt bewildered and disappointed. She didn't know how to face everything, nor did she know how to continue searching for the truth. All she could do was silently endure the turmoil inside her, hoping that one day she would uncover the mystery. One day, as Alice was busy organizing the house, something unusual happened. The wall behind her seemed to come alive, slowly creeping toward her, and then the scene from the beginning repeated itself. Just then, the phone rang, and Margaret's voice came through the line.
You went out there. You saw it.
Margaret?
You saw it. They're lying to all of us.
I can't talk to you right now, Margaret.
No one asks any questions. We can't stay here anymore, Alice. I'm not crazy.
You're being ridiculous and you need to stop this.
Alice's heart began to race, but she chose to trust Jack. However, while practicing dance in front of the mirror, Margaret suddenly appeared in the reflection. Her movements were identical to Alice's, as if the mirror held another version of herself. Then, Margaret suddenly and frantically lunged at the glass. When Alice looked again, Margaret was gone, and everything had returned to normal. This series of strange events filled Alice with doubt, so she decided to investigate Margaret's house. When Alice arrived at Margaret's home, she found Margaret standing on the roof, holding a knife. Alice shouted out, but Margaret, seemingly oblivious, slit her own throat with the small knife. The scene left Alice terrified. She wanted to approach but was forcibly stopped by the red uniformed security guards. That evening, Alice told Jack about what had happened, hoping to get some answers, but Jack remained evasive, suggesting that Margaret might have had mental health issues. Alice felt disappointed and angry. She demanded to know what kind of business Jack's company was involved in, but Jack refused to reveal anything, insisting that it was confidential. Alice was left speechless. In the early hours, Alice once again found herself caught in a hallucination. The intense sensation of suffocation woke her from her sleep, and her unusual reaction caused Jack to become deeply concerned. The next day, Jack brought a doctor to examine Alice. However, the doctor assured them that there was nothing physically wrong with Alice and suggested that the hallucinations might simply be due to stress. Alice didn't believe the doctor, so she pressed him about Margaret's condition. The doctor nervously glanced at Jack before explaining that Margaret had been diagnosed with a mental illness, so her actions should be disregarded. He then advised Alice not to worry about trivial matters. After the doctor left, he accidentally left behind his bag. Once she confirmed that both Jack and the doctor had left, Alice hurriedly opened the bag. Her gaze was drawn to a document inside Margaret's medical records. She carefully opened it, only to find it completely blacked out. The handwriting on the record had been ruthlessly smeared with black ink. A sense of conspiracy filled the air, and Alice's heart grew uneasy. Later, at a promotion party for Jack, the doctor was sitting in a corner, talking to Jack's boss. Meanwhile, Alice couldn't shake the dark thoughts hanging over her. Margaret's death and the mysteries she had left behind weighed heavily on her mind like a stone. But it was Jack's promotion party, and as his wife, Alice couldn't leave. She went to the bathroom, and a neighbor followed her in. Alice confided in her, telling her she wanted to leave the town. However, the neighbors were very angry after hearing this. Tonight was Jack's promotion party, and everyone there was happy for Jack. But his wife Alice was such a downer. Then the neighbors slammed the door and left. After the party, Jack's boss, Frank, suddenly appeared behind Alice. His sudden presence startled Alice.
Because I've been waiting for someone like you, someone to challenge me.
And his cryptic words only deepened her resolve to leave the town. That night, while dining together, Alice asked a couple how they met. The couple was surprised but answered her question. They said they had met on a train. Before they could continue, Alice interjected, "Did the man find the woman's train ticket? And that's how they became acquainted?" The couple was left dumbfounded, but even more shocking revelations followed. After further questioning, Alice discovered that every couple in the room had the same story about how they met. How could there be such strange coincidences? After a brief pause, Alice suddenly realized, could our memories have been altered? Someone was secretly controlling everything. At that moment, everyone fell into deep thought. Just as Alice was about to delve deeper into the mystery, Frank interrupted her. He stated that the town provided a happy life for everyone, no pressure, no struggles, just pure happiness, and that Alice might be the one with mental issues. Alice felt a whirlwind of emotions and quickly retorted,
"Talk about that! Where did it come from?"
Her increasingly agitated behavior seemed to confirm Frank's point, but no one was paying attention to her words. Everyone appeared to be enchanted by the town's blissful atmosphere and unwilling to explore the truth. Back home, Alice continued to beg Jack to move away, but for him, torn between his growing career and his deeply loved wife, this was the hardest decision of all. Watching Alice, now in tears, Jack finally made a choice. He would leave the town with her. But later that night, as they sat in the car, Jack suddenly changed his mind. It seemed that, to him, career was still the most important thing. Alice was suddenly captured by the red uniformed security guards and forcibly taken to a hospital. All she remembered was that a doctor had forcibly implanted a device in her head. And then everything went black. When she woke up again, her memories had been erased. Alice found herself back in the happy town, continuing her carefree life, doing simple household chores every day, and enjoying life. Jack, seeing his wife with no memory of the past, was actually happy. Now, both his career and love life were flourishing. But then, a song triggered something inside Alice, and fragments of memory flooded her mind. She remembered her past. Alice had once been a nurse. After a long day of work, she was physically and mentally exhausted. In contrast, Jack was like a useless man. He had no job and lacked ambition, and even the meals had to be made by Alice when she returned home from work. Over time, their relationship began to deteriorate. Jack realized that his marriage was falling apart, but he didn't want to make any changes. Then, one day, a news article caught his eye. Frank, the CEO of a company named Victory, had launched a town plan. This plan allowed people in the real world to fall into a physical coma, after which their consciousness could be transferred into the town with the help of a special device. In the town, they could live freely, and if needed, a part of their memory could be erased. In a desperate attempt to save his marriage, Jack quickly signed up, and, as we know, the rest of the events unfolded from there. But why did the men in the town have to leave every morning? The reason was that the men still had to return to the real world every day. Jack thought it was all for Alice's sake, but that was just what he believed. It didn't mean Alice agreed with it. No matter how perfect the illusion, it was still a fantasy. Jack should never have taken away Alice's life without her consent. No matter how cruel the real world seemed, Alice was determined to return to it. Jack even knelt down and begged her to stay. But Alice now hated the man in front of her. She grabbed a glass of wine from the table and threw it at Jack. Just then, the neighbor advised Alice to escape immediately. She now knew the town's secret, and Frank would stop at nothing to keep her there, even kill her. If she died in the town, she would die in reality as well. Alice couldn't afford to hesitate. Now, she had to go straight to the circular building at the top of the mountain. The only way to return to reality was to touch the glass there. The first time she had reached it, Alice returned to reality, but her memories were erased shortly after. She floored the gas pedal and drove towards the mountain, but when she reached halfway up, she saw 2 cars chasing her from behind. Frank had learned about Alice's escape and had sent his men to intercept her. In the thrilling chase, Alice managed to slam on the brakes at just the right moment. She successfully avoided the pursuit and, as the summit grew nearer, her car hit a mound of dirt. With no other choice, Alice got out and sprinted, overcoming many obstacles, until she finally reached her destination. As long as she touched the glass, she would return to reality and never have to experience the serene comforts of the town again. In truth, the neighbor had already known the truth, but chose not to escape. Her son was already gone in the real world, and in the town, she could live with him. The neighbor understood that all of this was fake, but she still couldn't face the reality of losing her son. Alice struggled with her own emotions, but in the end, she made her choice. Fake is always fake. The real world might be cruel and even unpleasant, but at least you can truly control your life and change everything through your own efforts. After all, if there were no suffering in life, how could you truly appreciate the beauty? With all her strength, Alice reached out and touched the glass, and the film came to an end.